Want to take the roll?
I do. Mayor Zakowski.
Here.
Alderman Kittle.
Here.
Alderman Breeze.
Here.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Here.
Alderman Gartner.
Here.
Alderman Volkert.
Here.
Alderman Montello.
Here.
Pledge of allegiance.
Motion to accept the agenda.
I'll make that's a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Moved. So moved.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. Or is that what you just did? No. I guess we just did that twice.
Mike,
Sorry,
you're
I
trying to
can't
slow
see
it down.
very
I can
good.
see that, Mike.
Agenda.
Public comments. Oh, okay, no comments. Your motion to approve the consent agenda.
I so move. That's what I meant.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Old business, third quarter tourism funding recommendation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The third quarter tourism funding recommendations were brought forward in December, and this one was not a part at the time because the Tourism Committee had wanted additional information and was waiting for some invoices to be accompanied with the application. All the information was provided by the Chamber. Tourism Committee had an opportunity to review and are recommending that City Council approve $31,105.84 for the 2024 Fun Fest. I was not at that last meeting, but I do know that Mayor Zakowski and Alderman Freeze were both there, so I'm happy to answer any questions about this item, or they can as well.
I think, there's just, they want to find out, I think mainly about if they had our symbols on there, on the advertising, so it should be on there all the time.
Correct.
I think that was the main thing that came out of that meeting, just to make sure that that advertisement is always there on everything they do.
Every tourism application, any advertising that takes place is supposed to include the Visit New Richmond logo, and proofs of those advertising are supposed to be included with every application. So the Tourism Committee gave the Chamber some more time to get some more items turned in.
I'll
And
make a
the
motion.
application's completed now.
Sorry, I make a motion to approve the third quarter tourism funding.
I'll second it.
More discussion? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Breeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, ordinance 619, parking requirements.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Happy New Year. This item was on our meeting agenda last month. There was some feedback about adding essentially one sentence to the original draft. So staff have made that edit, which would be the last sentence under that section A5B. We wanted to ensure that when we're referring to residential uses, that it was consistent with how they're defined in our zoning ordinance. So the addition is that residential uses as identified in Table 3, Section J of the zoning ordinance shall endeavor but are not required to provide 1.5 off-street parking stalls per dwelling unit. So we felt that met the discussion that you had last month and wanted to bring that forward tonight for consideration and potential approval.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to offer a motion that we approve this ordinance number 619 as it's been presented.
Second.
Discussion? Not, take the roll, please.
Alderman Breeze?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Motion passes. New business, advertising on local cable access channel.
So the city of Richmond contracts with Northwood Technical College who manages the local cable access channel. There are rules that are set forward by the city that govern those operations, one of which is in regards to advertising. So currently advertising is not allowed on the local cable channel. We've had conversations with Justin Livestream, which for the last few years has done live streaming of our local high school athletics, and they would be willing to re-air their recordings on the local cable channel. So these would not be live, but they would appear usually the next day or the day after the event occurred. However, Justin Livestream features advertisements from local businesses in the community. And so in order for them to air or rebroadcast on the local cable channel, those rules would have to be modified by the city council. So included in your packet is a memo that has some background information. It also identifies the existing advertising provision, as well as some draft language that would hopefully, again, strike a balance to say it doesn't mean that there's anything goes. There still has to be some, some things that you may not want in terms of advertising. If it's, and this would be similar to the WIA, where they don't have advertising for drugs, alcohol, things like that on a local cable channel, but would allow for some additional programming. So I had a meeting a few weeks ago with Alderman Kittle, with Justin Strand of Justin Livestream, and then with Dr. Alex Burkholtz at Northwood Technical College. And we thought if the council wanted to move forward in this direction, we could get this updated, and potentially already this winter, you could have local basketball games, hockey games could be re-aired. And even outside of athletics in the future, it could be a high school music concert, it could be the commencement ceremony, other things like that. So,
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to offer a motion that we approve, I guess, the language that you're offering. I don't know that you're making a point that it's not necessarily in its final form, but it really is the heart and intent to allow this to happen. Just with the added caveat that I think it's interesting that we talk about no lewd subject matter can be included, and then it references political causes. So with that, there's my motion.
Second.
Just one question. So if somebody else wants to do this, does Northwood just look at the way it's gonna be and make a decision, have it on there or not? It doesn't have to come back to us again, does it?
so in terms of the final language for the rules, so we would have legal counsel review those and also make sure that Northwood Technical College is comfortable with the language.
I think the language is good. I read it, and
So
I think it's right to the point.
But I'm sorry, I thought I misunderstood your question. I thought you were asking, and I guess I will ask, what if somebody else wants to put something on there?
That's my question.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Is that
Yeah,
up to
so-
Northwoods, or is it up to us?
So anyone in the community can bring forward a local church, local business that wanted to have programming. So in this case, Justin Livestream, let's say there's a hockey game tonight. Tomorrow they would send the recording on to Northwood Technical College. If it meets the intent of the local
Guidelines.
cable channel and the
Yep.
guidance, and obviously having some communication ahead of time, knowing what events they're going to be covering. You don't want to get 3 recordings of the exact same event or that kind of a thing. But hopefully this sparks some more interest in the local cable channel. And again, in the future, if there's other, let's say a local church wants to have their service broadcast, but again, they recognize a sponsor or they have an advertisement on that program. All these things cost money, the equipment, the staff time. So it could be that there's other organizations out there outside of Justin Livestream that would be interested in re-airing something.
I'm just asking, that wouldn't have to come back to the council then? Northwoods could make that decision then?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep, none of
That's
that
all I
comes back to
wanted.
us to
Yep.
approve.
That's what I want to know.
So I don't think we could possibly imagine all the things that might not have one of us like for advertising. So is this a situation where we can approve this for a 1 year to see how it goes? If it goes south, can we make a change later?
You could, yep. So we have a contract with Northwood Technical College. That's just an annual contract. This would be, now the contract just refers back to these rules. So this isn't necessarily a part of it is or isn't part of the contract in a way. Obviously the contract where Northwood Technical College is adhering to the rules that the council is establishing. But in a year from now, if you say, there's too much advertising or we want to make a change, you could certainly do so.
And do you remember off the top of your head when that contract comes due each year? Is that the first of the year?
I
July?
believe it'd be for July 1, so.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I talked to Alex. Mike, this might probably pertain to you. I talked to Alex and he said that the square dancing will still be on.
Awesome.
Just so you know that it wouldn't really bump the square dancing or anything.
it easier for me to support.
Okay.
Take the roll, please.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Vries?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, bids for well number 5 rehabilitation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Wisconsin DNR recommends that every 8 to 10 years, municipalities rehab their wells. Well number 5 is due. Dave Pufall in the Water Department did go out and get bids for rehabbing the well. He received 3 of them, with the low bid being from Bergerson Caswell. They've done a lot of work on the city's wells in the past, and the Water Department has not had any issues with their work. So at this time, it would be our recommendation to move forward with Bergerson Caswell. At their base bid is $24,315, with the caveat that it could change depending on, so right now, a lot of the well appurtenances are below ground, so we don't know what shape they're in. So once they pull the well out and are able to look it over, then they'll have a better idea of what the final cost would be, but this is kind of their base, what we're thinking it's going to cost.
So it could go up or down or just up?
It could go down. It could definitely go down. They try to predict, based on past well projects and other wells they've worked on, what materials they're gonna need, but you never know until you actually pull it out of the ground. But yeah, it definitely could possibly go down.
I'll make a motion to approve the bid of $24,315.
Second that.
Just a quick question. Normally, this is something that would have gone to the utility commission?
Yeah, we met this morning, the Chair of the Utilities Committee and I met this morning with Dave Pufall.
Okay,
Actually, a meeting because it wasn't announced. or-
noticed, yeah.
So we did meet this morning at 8 o'clock and talked about the bids. And Dave was very pleased to have this company be the low bid.
Oh, it's all good. I was just curious.
Amazing to have 3 bids that are that close.
Yeah, they were,
To me.
yeah, very close. But yeah, Dave just wants to make sure he gets the work done early this year before we get into the spring, summer, and need our wells back online. So this, the well will be down for a period of time while they're rehabbing it.
Other questions? Take the roll, please.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Vries?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Passes. Resolution 012501, preliminary resolution special assessment for alleys.
Yeah, so the assessment report is attached to your council packet. We're not gonna review that tonight unless you want me to go through it in detail. Tonight, we're just gonna consider the resolution that essentially kicks off the special assessment process. So this resolution would be council authorizing staff to move forward with the special assessment process. It gives the clerk agency to set the date and time of the hearing. And so it would be my recommendation that the next regular council meeting, we would actually have the special assessment hearing. And at that hearing, then we would go through this whole report. But I'd be happy to answer any questions on it tonight if there's any.
I move to approve resolution 012501.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Roll, please.
Alderman Volkert?
Yes.
Alderman Montello?
Yes.
Alderman Kittle?
Yes.
Alderman Vries?
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier?
Yes.
Alderman Gartner?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, water tower number 3 project update. Eric?
Yeah, so a few things have happened in the last couple of months. We've been moving forward with acquisition of the site or the lot that the tower will sit on. That was finally completed last week, I believe. So we do now have the site acquisition completed. As you can see on the map there, the future outer way kind of goes to the east, and then the lot number 1 there would be the water tower site. So the long strip would be kind of a driveway access with the tower up in that southern portion of the larger area. We previously talked about including some of the work associated with the booster station site with the Francis development. Doing this work now would save the city overall money by not having to reconstruct roadway to install piping. Unfortunately, when I first estimated this work and we talked about it, I think a while back, maybe this spring, I had just estimated the cost of the water main pipe, about $35,000. There were some other costs that were associated with that. There were some sanitary sewer connections, there was some storm sewer, there was some drainage, a little bit of road work. So the final cost for all the work, underground work and road work for the booster station site was around $85,000. In the grand scheme of things, this will still save the city money. Now we have all the underground work done at the booster station site. We don't have to get into the road and tear up the road again. And all these costs do go towards the tower project, and the overall project cost is still the original estimate. It hasn't gone up. And then finally, the design of the project is complete. The DNR has approved the overall project, and we're still working on PSC approval, which you all know can take quite a bit of time. But the plan is to hopefully still bid it out fall, winter of '25 for '26 spring construction.
Motion to approve.
No,
Just information.
Just information, so no
information,
approval.
okay.
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions though if they're,
I thought.
So the tower-
85,000 or-
Tower will probably be 26,
yeah, yep.
mid 26?
Probably start beginning of '26. It probably won't be completed until '27.
Okay, that
Yeah.
takes that long.
They take, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Yep.
Shouldn't be an issue with getting approval from the PSC, it's just a process. to
No,
go
it's
through.
just, yeah, their process takes a long time.
What's new?
Yeah.
2025 Fun Fest permit application.
This item is actually kind of related to our next item, which is the parade permits. In 2023, the council had said going forward that you wanted to have applications for Fun Fest brought forward at the January council meeting. In the previous years, in some cases, the event itself wasn't actually getting approved until June or even July, right before the event. And really wanted to have more advance notice, not just for city staff, but the surrounding homeowners. And so in 2024, in the month of January, all of the applications were brought forward and were all approved by the council. For 2025, when we published the agenda packet last week, we'd only received the parade permit. We did today receive some of the application materials for the closing of the streets for the carnival. And then on Friday last week, we received applications related to the use of for the bands for outdoor music. Those applications would not yet be ready to be considered this evening. The chamber still have to meet with property owners. So anytime you're gonna have a street closure, it's not just the date and the time that it's gonna happen, it's making sure that they've spoken to all the abutting property owners in that area. So for tonight, other than the parade permit applications, which is our next item, at this time, we don't have any applications for you to formally consider. However, we will review, and when the chamber has met and has collected signatures from the surrounding property owners, we will bring those forward as soon as we can.
I'm just
It was
curious. Oh, go ahead, Greg.
My memory says it was pretty much uneventful last year with all of the neighbors and stuff there. In past years, I know there had been some issues, but last year went pretty good, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it's been downtown now for 3 or 4 years. So, I think each year there's been some improvements and things made to, now I certainly don't want to speak for the property owners over there. It's not, in front of my house where I'm having to deal with a carnival for a week, but I think, there's been a lot of effort made, I think, to address some of the concerns that there were. But we also understand, houses get sold, properties change hands. We don't want to assume, everything's going to be the exact same, because there could be some different changes to the layout. There could be a different homeowner or a different business owner. But I think, for the most part overall, last year, the event went well. So.
Chief, you're,
I was gonna say, I think part of the reason the event went well is because of the pre-planning and having a lot of those conversations earlier in the year than waiting till June or July, and property owners seeing it, the dates and the times and the locations on Facebook before they've even been notified it's happening in front of their house. So, the early communication with people helped, and we were able to alleviate a lot of the issues earlier on in the year, so.
I just want to ask a question. So we have established, I don't know if it's process, precedence about having this stuff in by January. I actually wonder if it wouldn't be more equitable if we said we need, I don't know, is it a certain number of months lead time? If somebody was doing an event in September, how important is it that we know it in January? Just for the sake of saying, and not like I've given this a lot of thought, but if these, and we're not talking about the parade, we're talking about the other stuff, if the applications had to be in, say, 6 months in advance. I don't know if it's magic about January. So that's just something for future consideration, that we establish it. So whenever the event's going to be, whatever the proper lead time is, but that becomes the kind of, I don't know, is it a goal? Or are we saying that's what the rule is?
I think when we had first moved the, addressed the application dates for Fun Fest, part of it was, okay, if we're already submitting the parade permit applications by January. You know, we have a lot of other large-scale events, whether it's put on by the chamber or other organizations, and I think the more advanced notice, the better for everybody, whether it be the property owner, city staff. There's a lot of resources that go into it. And in some cases, it's even, you know, dates. You know, Park Art Fair, the way the calendar falls some years, you don't know, is it the very first, you know, what if people think of it as the first weekend in June? Well, depending on the calendar falls, people aren't sure. So you also don't want to assume that an event's always going to happen on the same date or the same weekend. Maps change, parking plans change. Even for Fun Fest this year, you know, the last few years, they've had overflow parking on the library site. Well, that's a construction site right now, so that may not be available. Some years there's been a car show, and now that hasn't happened the last couple of years. So events evolve over time, and so we don't want to assume everything's going to be the same. But I think to your point, I mean, maybe we look at all of our larger events, however we define that, you know, but so that not just for Fun Fest, but for a lot of these bigger events, that you don't want to get an application a month ahead of time and have to scramble to put plans together.
Well, I completely agree, and I really, my point is we've kind of established this January thing, and again, if it was something that was happening in September, that's not as important as something that's happening in June. So whatever the proper lead time is to help public safety, to help the city, but that we use that as, and it's kind of a moving date because it's conceivable that somebody could have an event this fall that they're not even like, they're just starting to think about it, right? I don't know of anything, but if we're saying, well, it's January, well, it isn't necessarily January because we're not dealing with January now. But I do think I'd like to see us establish something because you mentioned Park Art Fair, that needs permitting as well, right?
Yep.
We're not even,
Mike, can I just share the
Please.
January 1st? I was part of that decision of the January 1st deadline, and a big piece of that is that on January 1st, our park shelters and campsites open up for reservation. And we don't know, we typically will close the reservations for park shelters in Mary Park the weekend of Park Art Fair and the weekend of Fun Fest because they will use the whole, all the space as well. And so like this year, we didn't have the Park Art Fair applications yet before January 1st. So we closed the shelters the first weekend in June. And then we received the applications today, and it's actually the last weekend in May. And so luckily, there was nothing reserved. But we want to be a good partner in these events and make sure the spaces are held. And so that January 1st does have a few deadlines that really resonate for making sure everything goes smoothly in the public spaces. But having said that, if somebody comes forward in September, like, do we need to know 9 months ahead of time? Not necessarily, but they also might not have the services available that they want.
Right,
The other thing is too, from my agency standpoint is I've got people scheduling vacations out, you know, they only get so many weekends off a year. And then, you know, Fun Fest is an all-call. You know, the Hometown Holiday Parade is an all-call. St. Patty's Day is an all-call where all of my staff work. And, you know, they're planning vacations and things like that. Park Art Fair, not as big a deal. But now we've got, the Halos Walk and that's getting very, very large and requiring more and more staff. And knowing about those things in advance for us, for planning purposes, so we're not having people canceling vacations, and things like that is also very important for kind of that family first mentality and stuff like that. So knowing that early in the year, we can make those arrangements to have enough staff available, where especially in those May, June, July, August into September, when people are doing family things and going away, all of a sudden, a couple months in advance, oh, sorry, and we're trying to avoid some of that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Chief. I'm just saying that we've established this kind of, I think, the way you have it written in here, this stuff would be in by the January regular meeting, which is tonight. And it's not in. So does it matter? We're talking about how important it is, but it's not here. And so that's all I'm wondering. We've established, and so to the point that he just brought up, right? Do we say, oh, it's okay, or doesn't matter, or whatever? I'm not trying to make an issue of it this specifically tonight, but what is the practice going to be? If we're trying to manage city resources in the best way with an eye towards the folks who actually have to do the work, are we just saying, oh, please get it to us, and then they don't, and whatever? I'm not trying to pick on the chamber here. You talked about the Park Art Fair. We made a guess, and we guessed wrong. And fortunately, we didn't have to kick anybody out of the park or whatever would have happened there. So that's all. It's just a guideline and it doesn't really matter, or doesn't matter. That's all.
I think it does matter. When I first read this, I thought, well, it just kind of seemed punitive that, maybe we're just trying to get people to get their stuff done ahead of time. But now hearing the stories of, that there's a, permitting process for the shelters, the staffing, that sort of thing, including Public Works, I agree. We at least need to have dates, if not the full permit. And I guess I don't see a reason not to have it done by the January meeting. You're right, it's a long time away, like Hometown Holiday, that's 11 months prior. But I would hope they wouldn't have dates picked out 11 months prior.
Well, in all fairness, though, let's talk about the Park Art Fair. That's 5 months from now. So that's just.
But they don't release the shelters and stuff until January 1. So
I understand that, but we didn't have it by January 1. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
So that's my point. We're saying, oh, we'd like it by then. Oh, it's not okay. Well, we'll work it out. That's all. And basically, as this memo says, we're going to have it by March. I guess the stuff for Fun Fest.
That's what they've they indicated they would meet with property owners in March.
So I get that's kind of a different deal. However, that can be worked out. But I'm saying, and I guess to what you just said, Pete, what's the hard part about dates? At least as a benefit to folks, maybe the event doesn't happen. Okay, you get the information early, and let's say the event, something happens and it's not going to happen. Well, at least the police chief, he's got his department set up to work, and okay, that's a lot easier problem to have than, oh, guess what, everybody, I need you here, and some of you have got time planned off. That's all. If we're gonna, is it a suggestion? I was merely saying that if you had a 6-month thing for things that were happening later in the year, but I guess again, we're asking folks to do this. If they don't, does it matter? And I'm not really talking about this year. Are you shaking your head? It doesn't matter?
Obviously, it doesn't.
Okay, so, and your thoughts are, should it?
Well, what are you going to do? I mean, I guess, okay, so Bill wants to have the Mary Park for a Bill's family reunion, and Park Art doesn't have their stuff together, and they don't know the dates exactly. Do we say, Bill, you can't have your family deal that day? Well, Bill's got it first.
So that brings up an interesting, because if that would have happened.
That's what I'm thinking.
Right, so no, but so
Bill's family adventure, but I'm saying.
That's fine.
Could be
But
something huge.
if that would have happened, and this is the deal, I guess there's a little bit of a curve schedule-wise, because it's always been, as long as I can remember, it's been the first weekend in June.
Yep.
And so
First
kind of penciling it in, oh, it's in May.
We know it's in May?
Yes.
Oh, we do know.
Based on
Okay, that's fine.
applications received today. So we have had it happen before, that the
I mean, we
applications
know
have
when
come
it,
in
we know
late.
when it is this year, right?
Yes, we found out today it was
about,
May 31st.
What about Fun Fest? Do we know the dates?
Based on applications received, yes.
We know them all.
Now we do, yes. I mean, if you want to know from a staff point, when would I
no, I'm
like to
just
see
saying
the
that
applications?
think in
December
the-
15th.
I think it says it has to be by the city council meeting in January, right?
Yep.
Are they all in now for January? I mean,
Well,
the
the
dates?
answer is no.
I
The
don't
answer is
know, no. Completed applications are not
No,
all
I mean
in
the
yet.
dates, though, that's the key thing. the
I'm more
dates.
worried about the dates than the
And
completed
honestly, the
applications.
dates need to be before January 1st.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. You gotta
But
lock in on
really,
your
the
dates.
entire applications,
But it says in the deal that they have to be by the first council meeting in January, right?
They'd be completed applications.
Yeah.
they're not completed yet.
It'd be like if we,
Well, do we have,
if you had a parade permit application and there wasn't the map or you didn't know the route, it wouldn't be a complete application.
to Mike's point, do we say you have to have your dates in January meeting? You need a completed application in 6 months prior to the event.
The January meeting is too late for the dates, honestly.
Well, it's only,
I mean, if you just
it's
want to know my
13
opinion,
days,
if we're
so-
changing this, like if we're clarifying this for clarity,
Yep.
like
You want
we're
to,
gonna turn those
you want 'em a
pavilions
month
on for
ahead of
rental
that?
January 1st. And
Well,
right now, we could have had. And
I
that's
think
for the dates.
everybody knows when Fun Fest.
If you're
Fun Fest is gonna be
asking,
every year,
like,
right?
for honesty, we need the dates before that.
Well, actually, Mayor, that's not necessary.
Patrick's Day, everybody knows when that's gonna be.
well, that one's an easy one.
But
Well,
we
not
don't,
always, because we don't define when they're gonna have their parade. When St. Patrick's Day is on a Monday, they could decide to do the parade
They've
on
done
a
that in the
Sunday.
past.
We can't decide that for them.
What I'm saying is, though, if they get in by this meeting, that's 6 months for almost everything, excepting
dates
St.
should be
Patrick's.
set.
I think relative to the issue that the clerk is bringing up is really, and we should revisit this, and we don't need to do it tonight, but dates have to be in by the 1st of January. Now, could somebody have an event that comes up, they kind of, it germinates in the springtime and they're doing it in the fall? Sure. And we would have to tell them whether we can accommodate that or not, right? Based on staff, maybe we aren't gonna have the staff, can't happen, right? But if you're gonna let these public amenities be available to the public to secure on January 1, is it wrong to think that for these established events we kind of know about, we're not talking about something new that pops up, that we should know by January 1? Because again, if, to use Craig's example, Bill's family reunion is planned for that week, and then Park Art Fair comes and we say, wow, that's a whole different date. No, you're out. To Craig's point, hey,
What do you do?
Because we have to establish that it's gonna be January 1.
Right.
I think right now it says by this council meeting right now.
right, so it needs to be changed, but to the point
Well,
that
just
we're hearing,
change
that,
it.
but the applications aren't even in. So this is really kind of for
I
a
don't-
longer term discussion, but I do think that it needs to be, we need to address that.
I'm not near as worried about the applications being completed and in and done. The dates should be in stone.
They have to be in by January 1st.
And then you can use the
I think it's
6-month
simple.
rule for the,
That's okay with you,
Approved
Michelle, January
applications.
1st.
But I think to that point of, and let's talk about the chief
days.
more than anybody,
January 1st.
understanding kind of what the scope of the event is. We know what Fun Fest is, we know what the Park Art Fair is, we know what St. Patrick's Day is, but if there was something new, they need to know, is the chief doing an all-call or whatever? So we can have this discussion another time. It's just a little bit frustrating that city staff is put in a position to guess, and it worked out fine this year, but that doesn't mean it will in the future. And I think for us to be kind of number 1, 5 stars on customer service, the dates are in, so when we release those to the public, they're already marked off as to, no, that site's not available then.
and we release them to staff to say, hey, here's the vacation schedule for
Right.
2025.
Yep.
We're Xing off these dates because that's Fun Fest. We're Xing off these dates because that's Park Art for hometown. All
Right.
those dates, nobody gets vacation that time.
I mean, that's
Do that a
established
year
already.
prior.
I mean, those key dates right now are those 4, and like you said, something that could come up. Somebody says in April, we're gonna do something in September.
That's going to be evaluated on a case-to-case
That's what I'm
basis.
saying, exactly. These
Completely agree
4
with you.
events, we
Yeah.
know when they're gonna be. So
Well,
by January 1st, we'll know.
Yes. Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, we'd like to say we know when they're gonna be every year, but we don't, because
So we're gonna know by January 1st. I think we beat this horse to death, I guess.
But we were going really fast there.
Is this just for information now?
Yeah, so no action needed.
Okay.
We would not, again, the applications received today would not yet be ready for approval by the council. We'll bring those forward as soon as we have them, but
So why don't we bring this at a work session there, our next work session, we can do that?
for discussion about the
Yes.
dates and the, yes.
The
The
timing and
the
that.
new rules going forward.
Sure.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, 2025 parade permit applications.
So for 2025, we have applications submitted for 3 parades. First is St. Patrick's Day. This year it's on Monday, March 17th. One change that we wanted to note is that historically the parade has had a 4 o'clock PM start time. A couple of years ago, there was discussion at the Public Safety Committee meeting, as well as based on feedback from the school district about concerns with buses not being able to get through, as well as students having to leave school early in order to get down to watch the parade. And the Public Safety Committee recommended at that time that in the future, if the parade falls on a weekday, to start no sooner than 5 o'clock. So staff have spoken with Shamrock, and they were agreeable to having a 5 o'clock PM start time this year rather than 4 o'clock. So just wanted to bring attention to that. The route would be the same as it has been in years past. The application for the Fun Fest Parade, the parade itself would be Sunday, July 13th at 12 o'clock PM. The route would be same as in years past, so proceeding south on Knowles Avenue to 6th Street. And then the Hometown Holidays Parade, the application is for Thursday, December 4th at 6 PM. So that event, while it's newer, it's always fallen the week after Thanksgiving. Staff in the chamber are in the process of scheduling a post-event meeting just to discuss last year's event, what went well, what can be improved on going forward. But those would be the 3 parades for 2025. Staff are recommending approval of the applications with some conditions noted. One would be that the parade permit fees are all paid and certificates of insurance are provided prior to the issuance of the actual permit. Parade permit holders are responsible for notifying residents and businesses who are going to be affected by the parade lineup, staging, etc. The meeting shall be held with city staff and the chamber to review the 2024 Hometown Holiday Parade and also to consider any potential changes to the parade route or the lineup area as well. And then parade permit holders are to remind their parade participants that no alcohol is to be consumed during the parade, whether they're driving a vehicle, riding on a float, or walking as part of a parade unit. We have had issues of that with the St. Patrick's Day parade in recent years, where people are driving a float and they're drinking open container of alcohol, or people are riding a float and drinking on the float. And then bars and restaurants along the respective parade routes would be granted an extension of premise for customers to have open containers, fermented malt beverages directly in front of their business from 1 hour before the parade start time until 1 hour after the conclusion of the parade. So they would have to be along the actual route. So this has been consistent with what we did last year as well. So if the St. Patrick's Day parade route doesn't go in front of Huey's, for example, up on North Knowles Avenue. So Huey's doesn't get an extension of premise when they're not on the route. Same thing, Fun Fest Parade, it's on Knowles Avenue. The Shamrock wouldn't have an extension of premise. Now, they could apply separately to do something if they're doing their own event, but we thought this is just kind of easier for everybody to, and it's also for police department to know what they're enforcing.
So we're going to vote on this tonight? The applications?
That's up to up to.
Mr.
council
Mayor, I'm going to
tonight.
offer a motion that we approve the parade permits for these 3 parades that have been applied for as it's presented with the conditions as it's spelled out tonight.
I'll second it.
More discussion?
Alderman Montello,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Freeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volker.
Yes.
Motion passes. Any communication or miscellaneous?
Just to let you know, we do actually have a primary on February 18th, not for municipal offices, but for county and state. We're still receiving that information. So Early voting will open here at City Hall on February 4th, and absentee ballots will go out in the mail this month, which Christy and I are super excited about because we've been missing elections. Yes. Not
need
for
one.
New Richmond School Board, no. Somerset has some in the area, but not New Richmond.
Anything else?
Quick one.
Eric.
Our new public works superintendent started today. I'm gonna try not to butcher his name, Jeff Dianasopoulos.
Say it right?
Yeah. So he started today. He brings over 20 years of experience in public works, so we're really excited to have him on board.
Anything else? Do you hear a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Favor say aye?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
One last thing, if anybody's looking for real estate work, let me know. I think we have some people that can help you with that. If anybody needs any real estate work.
This conference is no longer being recorded.